Welcome to the Sanity Project podcast, the place for internet technology professionals whose work-life balance plan has imploded. We are here to provide solutions that will help the IT pro live a sane, healthy, and prosperous life. Here's your host, Joanne Victoria.
Hi, I'm Joanne Victoria, the host of the Sanity Project podcast, and I partner with IT professionals in telecommunications, technology, entertainment, and mass media industries whose work-life balance plan has imploded and who want more success, more confidence, more fun, and more inner peace. The Sanity Project podcast is a platform for experts in the personal development and IT communities to share their wisdom, expertise, and solutions that will help the IT pro live a sane, healthy, and prosperous life. And when we talk about a prosperous life, today our guest, Karen Ford, is going to talk about money, how to get it, how not to waste it, and how to make more of it. Karen Ford is the author of 2 books. One is called 31 Days to a Greater Understanding of Money, and the other book is called Money Matters. Money Matters is the #1 best-selling book on Amazon, and it is a discovery for many. In Money Matters, Karen Ford provides keys to demolishing debt, shares how to budget correctly, and gives principles in wealth building. The book is not only motivational but practical, which is what I certainly like to hear. Karen Ford is a master financial coach that has coached people with a variety of money issues from just $500 in debt to $800,000 in debt. She has coached people with up to 86 credit cards and taught them how to pay down and pay off those credit cards in record time. Karen's mission is to inspire others to rid themselves of debt and build wealth. Karen encourages others to break the shackles of debt and gives valuable insight into building wealth so that they can experience financial freedom. Today, Karen will be helping the listeners, that's you folks, with keys to demolish debt, build wealth, and give you hope for your financial situation. Welcome to the show, Karen Ford. How are you today?
I'm very well. Thank you so much for having me on here. I so enjoy it.
I enjoy having you. I love having people who can talk about money. I've had a couple of guests about that, but I don't think there's enough information out there about money. We have a lot of spirituality and all sorts of stuff like that, but we need more about money. So how are you going to help our audience today, Karen Ford?
Well, the first question I would have to ask the audience is, who doesn't need any more money? Because I have not run into anybody yet to tell me that they don't need more money. We live in a fast-paced culture and society where we want things quick, we want things now, and the key to money is how we manage it. Making money is actually the easy part. The hard part is investing it, causing it to grow, and managing it in a great manner to where it's going to grow and to build wealth. And I have found that 7 out of 10 people are living paycheck to paycheck. Now that's 70% of Americans today are living paycheck to paycheck. And many times we don't really have anything to show for it. I have coached many people time and time again, and they will say, well, I make this amount of money each and every month, but I don't know what happened to it. Or I've coached people where it's almost tax time and they get their W-2 and they're shocked. You know, they're amazed at their income that they had for the year, but they're wondering what happened to all that money that I made. And they're not able to assess and identify exactly where it went. And that's where I come in. And that's the part that I love, because I love to show people with another pair of eyes where their money is going. I actually coached a couple. One time they had a little girl. So it was a family of 3. And I said, okay, well, let's figure out where your money's going. They were able to list their utility bills, etc. They knew their credit card bill and their car payments and their house payment. And I said, okay, now let's talk about food. How much money are you spending on food? They could not identify that. So I asked a series of questions, asking them, Do you do meal planning? No. How often do you go to the grocery store? Every 2 or 3 days we pick up what we need. And that right there was a big red flag for me. And then I said, okay, how often do you eat out? Well, we eat out once a week. Do you eat at work? And they said, yes, we eat in the cafeteria 2 or 3 times a week. That's both. When it was all said and done and we calculated how much they were spending on food each month, they were spending $1,600 a month for food with a family of 3. That's what I said.
Oh my God. How? Obviously their parents were not poor. I mean, if they just ate, I'm confounded. I'm confounded by that. $1,600.
Well, I was too. And they almost had a deer in the headlight look. They were amazed when we tallied up, and they gave accurate information. They didn't, make it bigger than what it was. I said, well, how much are you spending every 2 or 3 days at the grocery store? How much 2 or 3 days a week at the cafeteria each time? Mm-hmm. And how much do you spend when you eat out? Long story short, they made a decision that they were going to begin doing meal planning. So they didn't go to the grocery store every 2 or 3 days, but they went to the grocery store once a week. They decided that they would eat in the cafeteria 1 time a week, and that was generally a Friday, their last day of the work week. And they decided they would eat out once or twice a month. And they actually cut that bill from $1,600 a month down to $500 a month. And I was just so pleased and so tickled with them. And of course, they were really pleased because they had another $1,000, $1,100 a month they could use on other things rather than consuming food. So, yes, that was amazing.
Well, tell me a little bit, what you can, about these people who were with 86 credit cards. I mean, to me, that seems like a lot, and I'm, not being sarcastic or anything, but I mean, how did, there's a whole thing here, like how did they even get 86 credit cards, and what did you do with them, and why did they have 86? Well, whatever you can say about
that. Well, yes, absolutely. That's a great question to ask. And this was a married couple, so I need to interject something here. First of all, we can't change what we don't acknowledge.
Right.
So the very fact that they acknowledged that they had 86 credit cards was huge, because now you can do something about it. Now you can change it. Here's where the problem really was. And I'm married.
So how did you help these people with 86 credit cards, Karen?
Well, definitely we can't change something that we don't acknowledge. So they acknowledged and identified that they had 86 credit cards. Here's where the problem was. The husband was unaware of some of the credit cards that his wife had, unbeknownst to him. She had credit cards, and then he had credit cards that she wasn't aware of. Now, they both had credit cards together, and they knew about those. That was about 20 credit cards, which in my opinion is still too many. But then each one of them, because of varying situations, sometimes people shop and they spend because they're depressed or they're sad. And then it becomes a cycle. They're sad and depressed because they're in debt, and then they go get another credit card because now they're going to spend money because they're sad and depressed. It continues. When they met with me, they had their wit's end, and it was actually a day of discovery with my coaching, because neither one had shared with the other that they had credit cards hidden from their mate. So that was a very interesting coaching session, but they both accepted the fact that they had credit cards that neither one of them knew about, and then we came up with a game plan to start demolishing that debt. So they not only had 86 credit cards, but they had 2 vehicles, they had a mortgage, they had a second mortgage, and so it was a real financial mess. But I am happy to say that they are working the plan, and I tell you what, I'm so very proud of this particular couple, because they're doing what they set out to do. They're doing and getting out of debt, demolishing it, getting rid of those credit cards, getting rid of those car payments and now working on the house payment. So I'm so very proud of them.
So you become their accountability money coach.
Yes.
So they're
accountability. Oh, go ahead.
No, they have to be accountable to someone to do this, not just have the plan and, go at it half cocked, but they have to be accountable to you, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Yes. And accountability is absolute key when you're managing money and trying to get out of debt. You have to have accountability. You must have accountability partners.
Yeah, I think we all of us that work need an accountability partner to keep us on track, to help us do what we say we are going to do. It's that simple.
Right. Well, and I look at it like this too. If you're not married and you are looking to get out of debt and you want someone to help you with your financial situation, you need an accountability partner that's going to speak truth. Let me just say that. In other words, if you go to the mall with your friend and they're supposed to be your accountability partner, you can't try on the shoes and say, hey, can I get these shoes? And your accountability partner says, oh, those look wonderful, get 5 pair. Mm-hmm. If you can't afford it. The accountability partner must be a person that's going to say, you know what, those shoes look great on you, but not this month. Let's think about that for next month. They must be able to speak truth. And that's the type of accountability partner a person should identify and seek out, not one that's always going to be in agreement with you, with what you're purchasing.
Like somebody who wants to be nice all the time and well-liked as opposed to on purpose and on point.
That's right. Absolutely.
So how did you get into the money aspect of life?
Oh, wow. That's a great question as well. I've always enjoyed working with money, playing with money, investing it. And so I had gone to a retreat and a course, how to become a financial coach. And I absolutely loved it. And I love helping people. And that's what a coach does. A financial coach helps people with whatever their desire is. It's not always people that want to get out of debt, although that's one of the main reasons people seek out a financial coach, but also people that want to build wealth. Are you ready for retirement? How much money do you need to retire? That's another great reason to have a financial coach, because actually 57% of Americans have not calculated how much they need for retirement. And to me, that's a little scary. That's over half the population. They have not a clue how much they're going to need to retire. Well, how can you plan for something like that? Are you just winging it? And that's not something to wing, because if you might have a pension, you might have some type of retirement plan, but if you don't want your kids to take care of you or to be a bane on society, for lack of words, then we need to prepare and know and be well knowledgeable. How much am I going to need to retire? And so those are the reasons why people seek out a financial coach. And those are the reasons why I became a financial coach, because I get tired of seeing people on a treadmill and they're not going anywhere. It's like the gerbil one or the hamster on the wheel, mm-hmm. and they feel like they're going somewhere. They sure are moving, but they're in the same spot. And so financially speaking, I don't want to see people working 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week, and then they're still in the same spot financially, or sometimes worse, mm-hmm. because they don't have their spending under control, or they are not knowledgeable about investing. And that's where I just really want to help people. That's a passion within me.
I think that's great. And I think that's very important today, because people are aging and they're not getting their Social Security, whatever that means today, until what,
right.
70 now? Is that the age?
Right.
I mean, that's
right. They keep raising that age.
Well, they keep raising that age so that they can, continue to collect Social Security. The government can take it from, out of everybody's paycheck, but also to avoid giving it to people.
Right.
This is,
Right.
they're not doing anybody any favor about that, but it's just, it's not beneficial to the people who may need it, but that's never going to be
That's right.
enough. What does it amount to? $1,000, $1,500 a month at the highest. I
Right.
think, I'm not sure. And it's just really important that people know how to. I know my mother, she hated credit cards. She hated credit cards. My father was the one who would always take the chance on some invention that he had that was going to change the world, and my mother would have to hide the money. And
Yeah.
she was on cash forever. I mean, she just kept
Wow.
yeah, so she knew, um, neither of them were well off as children or grew up that way, but one had the propensity to save, and the other had the propensity to not just spend, but to take chances. And that's a little bit different.
Right. Well, and you said something very powerful there. One was a spender and one was more of a saver. And that's generally how it goes. Usually opposites attract. And so 9 times out of 10, if you're in some kind of a relationship and you're the saver, chances are you're involved with a spender. So talking money is a very important thing in that relationship, a very important aspect in that relationship. At times, I'm more of a saver than my husband.
Mm-hmm.
But there are times that I'll spend because I want something. And he'll swing back to saving when I'm wanting to spend. And so if you can come up with some type of a budget each month, and that's so very important. I heard someone say one time that a budget is telling your money what to do instead of wondering where it went. And so when I coach people and they say, I make this amount of money each month, but I don't know where it goes, or this is what it has on my W-2, but I don't know where it went, 9 times out of 10, it's because they haven't put it on paper. They haven't budgeted.
Yeah.
And putting it on paper is powerful. Some people have said, well, I've got it in my mind. That's great. I'm glad you have it in your mind, but now let's put it on paper, because you won't do something unless it's written down most of the time,
And putting it on paper makes it real. Other than that, it's just a game.
That's right. And we can fool ourselves, when people go shopping or they go to the mall or whatever it is, there's been a study done, Joanne, and 47%, you'll spend 47% more when you use a debit card or credit card than you do than when you pay cash. So when you go into a store, you're mindful of how much money you have in your wallet when you have cash and you're going to spend it. But when you go in with a credit card or a debit card, it's no holds barred. It's almost as if you have an endless supply on that debit card or credit card. And that happens more times than not. You'll spend 47% more when you use a debit or credit card than when you do when you spend cash.
Wow.
Yeah. So if you want control of your money, spending cash will put you in more control than a debit card or credit card.
So how do you help people? I mean, when I'm driving, I listen to the radio. I don't listen to the radio any other time. And the radio stations that I choose currently have a lot of people, three people, I think, throughout the times that I'm usually in the car, helping people invest in stocks. And I listen, and who in their right mind is going to invest when somebody tells you from the radio, oh, try this one or do this one. And except from David Ramsey, I wouldn't, who goes for the fund as opposed to individual stocks. And since they changed Dave Ramsey's time on my radio station, I hardly get to hear him anymore. So I'm here listening to these dudes, and I'm, thinking, and I'm going, well, they've got all of these people paying attention to them, paying them X dollars per month or per show or per whatever to invest. So how do you help people build wealth? What are your suggestions for that?
There's a variety of ways. First of all, we talk about 401ks, Roth IRAs, traditional IRAs. We talk about all of that because that's one great way to start planning for retirement. Because think about it, if you're not planning on dying before you end that job, you're going to want to retire, and you're definitely going to want to retire with more than Social Security if there's going to be Social Security by the time you retire. So we talk about various investments for retirement. But one of my main investments that I absolutely love, now I will invest in various stocks, but I do my due diligence. I check out that company. I see how long that company's been around. I look at their track record. And so mutual funds are great because you're getting a variety of stocks in one fund. Mm-hmm. But there are times I will play around a little bit, not large amounts, not hundreds of thousands of dollars, but I will invest in particular companies by purchasing their stock if I've done the due diligence and I trust that company. Of course, I keep my eye on it too. I don't invest in a stock and then I don't check it for a year. No, I check it at least once a week and check to see what it's doing. So that's another way we can help train people and coach people in investing. But one particular area that I absolutely love is real estate, because there's a wide array and varieties of real estate that a person can invest in. Again, we must do our due diligence. But there's commercial properties that can be rented out, that can be leased out. There's individual single-family homes that can be purchased for pennies on the dollar if you know where to look and how to get the properties. That maybe they're in foreclosure, maybe they're on an auction block because of taxes weren't paid. There's a variety of ways that you can purchase real estate, and then you can sell them as they are without having to put any more money in it, or you can put a little bit of lipstick and rouge on it, do what you need to do, and end up flipping it. But again, we have to know what we're doing. You definitely don't want to get a property that perhaps is in a flood zone and it's notorious for flooding in that particular area. If you plan on flipping a home, you still have to do your due diligence. But real estate is one investment that I absolutely enjoy. And so we talk about that. I try to find out from the people that I'm coaching, what are you comfortable with? Are there particular areas that you think that you would enjoy investing in? Do you want to do some research? If they're a person that doesn't want to do research of companies to invest stocks, then we're going to talk real estate. Mm-hmm. So even though they're still going to have to do their part and search it out, I can teach them principles and keys in identifying those properties and work with them one-on-one.
Okay, so do you also connect your clients, your customers, your people with accountants that are familiar with what these new people are going to be doing with either real estate or stocks, or do you stay out of their personal business from that regard?
Now, I will, if they're interested in stocks, we'll talk stocks, but I will still connect them with an accountant. I'll say, now, do you want a recommendation or do you want to search out your own accountant? And if they say they'll search out their own, then I say, great. Now let's identify how soon you plan on getting that accountant. Because if they say a date, then I'm going to hold them to that. Mm-hmm. If they say, well, sometime, then 9 times out of 10, they're not going to. But definitely I want them to seek out an accountant. Yes.
Okay, I'm just thinking here of people who are in similar positions to what your clients might be involved in. And so let's just say that when people say, oh, I want to buy real estate, I want to have rental income, and I have, you're saving me all this money, Karen Ford, and I now have $1,100 a month for my $1,600 a month food budget to invest in something. So let's say I'm going to buy a house, and do you guide them through the proper real estate agents? Do they invest in Virginia? Do you have them invest throughout the U.S.? How do you help them do that, if you do that?
Well, yes. First of all, we'll talk locally. especially if they've never done it before. I wouldn't want them to live in West Virginia and invest in a property maybe out in Montana where it's sight unseen, or they're going to have to travel. And, right at the moment, wherever they are, let's look here locally, even if it's within the same county, and definitely in the same state. Because when you first start out in real estate, my opinion, you need to be able to visually see that property and be able to get to it rather quickly. So if you're starting out in real estate and you're wanting to maybe purchase a home for a rental income, then my recommendation is let's look local first before we start delving into go clear across the country to delve into real estate. Let's start local first. And if they ask, I'll teach them and show them how I do it and how I've done it. This is how I identify properties. And then I'll ask them, how do you think that you would identify a property that would can be considered good rental income? I'm going to find out from them what they know, because then I can identify, you're going to need some help in this area because the property taxes on that property is going to be this. So, and I want to know how much they think the rent should be on that particular property. Do they know the particular laws in their city, county, and state regarding rental properties? Because that can be variable depending on where you live, whether you live in the city limits or outside the city limits. What are some things that are going to be required of you as the owner of that property? So there are many times, and if they ask for it, I will absolutely teach them, train them, and give them the information. But if it's something that they want to do on their own and they don't want coaching anymore, then I have to remove myself from that situation and hope that they make the right decisions. Because ultimately, I can't, if they're not continuing the coaching process with me, I have to remove myself from it.
Absolutely.
If that makes sense.
Oh, it does.
Yeah, I can't be responsible for them.
No.
Yeah.
So do you work with people locally or virtually or both?
Both. I have coached people locally and across the United States, actually. It's done face-to-face. I've done it, FaceTime, Skype, and over the phone, just like right now. But there's a variety of ways. The people that had $800,000 in debt were a state away. And so I didn't visually get to see them because they were an older couple and they were not privy to, FaceTime and that kind of thing. But we made some great decisions in that coaching because, coaching doesn't have to be face to face. Just like life coaches, that doesn't have to be face to face. Is it better? Probably, because you can communicate with that person a little bit better, but it doesn't have to be that way. I mean, my books themselves are coaching.
Right. I know. So I know when people, people will read books and have no problems absorbing the information and then, applying it to their life. But when they want to do, let's say, coaching in the broadest sense, they go, I have to be, face to face. Why? You weren't face to face with the author when you read the book. So what would you say, right now in closing for our audience, what would you say would be the number one? Well, give me 3 top tips for our listeners in how to demolish debt.
Oh, wow. How to demolish debt? Well, first and foremost, we have to have a written budget because we can't demolish debt if we can't identify and put on paper what those debts are. So number one, we must have a budget every single month for that particular month. Number 2, to demolish debt, we must write down all of our debts in ascending order. In other words, if your smallest debt is, say, $200, that would be at the top of the list, and then in ascending order. That's number 2. Number 3, we're going to demolish each debt one by one. And how do we do that? We start off with the smallest debt and we get rid of it. Now, here is a great tip. I call it the Goliath. You know, in the Bible, you remember that story about David and Goliath, and he killed a lion and a bear first? I call it the Goliath method. Before he took out Goliath, he had to take out the lion, and then he took out the bear, and then he took out Goliath. It was progressive. So the first thing we do is we demolish that very first debt, whether it's $200 or $100, and whatever that payment was, let's say it was $50 a month on that. Now we're going to apply that $50 to the next debt. Let's say that next debt is $100 a month. Well, now we got rid of the small debt, which was $50 a month. Now we're going to add that 50 to the 100. So now it's going to be $150 a month on that particular debt until that's gone. And then we keep doing that. And that's called the Goliath method. Take out the lion, take out the bear, take out Goliath. So those are my 3 tips in demolishing debt. Absolutely.
There you go, audience. And I know Karen Ford has provided you with a lot of information. So one of the things I strongly recommend is that you re-listen to this podcast. You know, if you want to download it to a place that you make it easy for yourself, but share it with your friends, share it with your family, and really you can get in touch with her at karenford.org. And I also want to suggest that people go to iTunes and give Karen 5 stars, give her a great review, or I should say give 5 stars to the podcast itself, and then give Karen a written review. And then for those of you who need a broader view of life, go to my website at askjoannevictoria.com and download your free copy of The True Self Handbook, a guide to transform your life, and refer this podcast to everyone you know. I thank you for being here today, Karen Ford, and I appreciate your message because it's very clear and very profound, because clarity is profound. And I know that our listeners are going to be very pleased with the information that you've given them. And thanks for being here, and have a great day.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Oh, thank you, Karen Ford. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Sanity Project podcast. Please go to askjoannevictoria.com and continue the conversation on my podcast page, and get a free copy of my book, The True Self Handbook, a guide to transform your life. That's askjoannevictoria.com. Take care, and thanks for being here.